Thank you.
There you go.
Uh,
Thank you, guys.
Chris, go ahead and continue.
All good. Drayton, as a matter of fact, I was about to pass it off to you for the talk on augmented reality and virtual reality here.
Oh, so that timing was perfect. Thank you. So as Chris highlighted, the ability to partner with DFR vendors such as Cyberhawk and Tykiops does result in every single case we've done. We've seen the MRR go up with the TSPs. And that's important to remember when we talk about each one of these slides in terms of revenue opportunities and where the synergistic partnerships are. As you decide who you want to partner with, and as TSPs, you have a lot of options, but how many of those options actually are looking out for your best interest and understand that your goal is to increase your MRR at the same time taking care of the customer. So since we are very channel focused, we understand that when we're brought into accounts, if we're doing DFI or something like that, that we know is your account. And that's very important to remember. We're not looking over to take over your accounts. So the second area that's on the agenda was to look at um, um, augmented reality and virtual reality. And again, this is another area. You'll notice that as we move from slide to slide, you're going to see that the growth of that market continues to increase. And you can see, as with the previous slide, augmented reality and virtual reality, also known as AR/VR, is showing a huge amount of growth. And it's kind of hard to project more than 3 years now with how fast technology is going. So the way a lot of the analysts do these are they project out the card, and it's just a percentage increase that's projected. They usually end up somewhat accurate, not always, but bottom line is industry is going to continue to grow. You can see that if we just look to 2030, we're talking about more than doubling and almost tripling from 75 billion to 235 billion dollars. That's a huge jump. It is not an area that TSPs normally think of as a good growth opportunity. But this really is one that we should take a look at. The market size is comfortable, showing that lots of growth, and with a lot of adoption is in the gaming industry. But you'd be surprised at who some of the gamers are. You'd be shocked if you start talking to some of your parents, baby boomers, Gen X's. There are a lot of people there in the gaming, and some of these experiences that we're seeing are quite impressive. When you look at what's being done with training, some of the training applications, there's projections that these type of things will take over traditional um, um, training in rooms. If you look at the cost savings, if you can eliminate that space or reprovision that space for something different other than training, and you can use VR to do that, that's absolutely amazing. Understanding there's a difference between AR and VR, augmented reality, where you have an existing set of reality that is there and you're able to add to it. That's what's happening a lot with the Google glasses and things of that, where you can put on the glasses, look out into your current environment and add information on top of that environment. That's augmented reality. That's being used a lot in the medical field also, versus virtual reality, where you're entering a whole world that's not real. So all those are very real opportunities, and each one of those requires TSPs to be involved. The remote collaboration, as it mentions also. So why does AR/VR need TSPs? It's a complex technology, and you need a lot of skill and technology to be able to implement it. So in terms of the ability to guide businesses and make sure the infrastructure is set up properly is where the TSPs can generate additional revenue, and because it also requires a lot of integration. When you're talking about network separation and all those things that TSPs are used to, using the ability to integrate the technologies, they can't do that without having TSPs to assist them in this market. I like this market, and I promised that when we create this presentation, there'll be areas that we talk about that weren't traditional for TSPs and a lot are MSPs, because this is one that is growing quite a bit and is not being tapped by technology service providers. So it gives you, so if you were to call customers like this, you have a higher probability of having a conversation because we don't typically call in these areas. But this, if you'll look at that chart again, is growing quite rapidly. So the revenue opportunities up here in creation to design augmented and virtual reality experiences. Again, that's gonna, if you decide to get into that field and make that a focal point for your organization, obviously the system integration part of it is going to be very, very important. And then custom application deployments that you can look at creating these partnerships. And again, if the previous series, if you haven't seen those, please request those recordings. So we talk about the importance of having synergistic partnerships, and you will grow faster by having those relationships than trying to do it alone. So when you want to have those potential synergistic relationships in order to collaborate with hardware manufacturers in the AV uh, VR world, majority of these people don't send anyone out to deploy this stuff. And it requires someone that is tech savvy in order to do it. Many times they have to get on the phone and call someone or tell them to find someone locally that can assist them with setting these things up. If you were to contact a manufacturer of this equipment and say, hey, just in case you have anyone in the quote unquote this metropolitan area, can you add us to your list of people that can call? And by the way, can you send us out some test equipment so we know how to deploy it? First of all, a lot of them will give you the equipment or give it to you at a great discount so you get used to it, and then they'll call you to deploy it should they have an opportunity or where there's a need in order to do that. So it's a very, very good way of partnering. And again, they don't compete with you. They're not looking to take any business from you. It only complements your business to get into accounts that can afford this type of technology are also accounts that have revenue to spend. So it's a win-win. Um, Make sure along with the hardware, you have the software vendors that also, and it's a similar sort of scenario, because sometimes the software can be deployed on hardware that the customer purchases, but the customer is not going to be tech savvy enough to put all those pieces together. They will need a TSP to assist them. And then alliance with educational institutions, because of the ability for this to really transform how education is done in a virtual environment. Think about this. 10 years from now, we know this technology is going to be much more advanced. If we could have the technology 10 years ago that we could have had during COVID, work from home or school from home would be no different than sitting in the classroom. There are technology being created today that allow you to put on a virtual suit so that you can even feel the wind, you can feel touch, you can interact with the environment so that it feels as if you're really there. If you're shaking hands with someone, it actually feels, it applies pressure to the palm so it feels like you're actually shaking someone's hand. So that technology exists today. So think about where it's going to be 10 years from now and think about how you can position yourself to really capitalize on this trend. The next one is going to be IoT. And I think, Chris, am I taking that one also, or is Mike taking that one?
I believe Mike will be
Nope,
telling us
I
about
have it.
IoT.
Okay, I'm going to turn the reins over to Mike. Mike.
Absolutely. Well, again, thanks everyone for joining. Internet of Things, as we know, is not a new thing, but it is a growing thing. As you see here, the market size, as Drayton and Chris have spoke to, is just increasing. From our perspective and for TSPs, right, is what can we do to grab our slice of that pie to continue to generate revenue, to create innovative solutions that will continue to drive innovation for our clients. And before we move on, I want to put a question out there for people to think about as we go through these slides. How do you feel today about your current limitations in your service capabilities? And what would it mean for you and your clients if IoT could significantly enhance those services? right? So as we move forward, and this is about creating revenue, creating opportunity, allowing yourself to interject as a subject matter expert as you drive business opportunities. As we know, the market size and the growth is phenomenal, right? And how do we, as TSPs, leverage and position ourselves as subject matter experts? So it's just booming in the IoT market, right? New devices for us means new opportunities, new dialogues. This market is experiencing rapid expansion, as we talked to, driven by just an explosion of interconnectivity among devices, which means, the growth forecast is, off the chart. So how to, again, creating numerous opportunities for technology service providers, MSPs, MSSPs, and vendors like Cyberhawk. The opportunities for TSPs, right, is this market presents a wealth of new opportunities to be innovative in how we provide solutions for our clients. Next slide. Cool. Why IoT needs TSPs? Again, I think the recurrent theme from Drayton and Chris is TSPs have an abundance of knowledge, right? Abundance of skilled people. And they know they have the inner workings of their business partners and their clients. So they're able to interject valuable discussions when it comes to IoT. This, a critical role in developing and implementing solutions that meet the needs, demands, challenges of their clients. Again, having all these new devices, now you have to secure and have efficient device management, right? That operational hygiene is part of all our discussions. This, being able to protect businesses from all these new cyber threats. And also being able to streamline operations and improve overall efficiencies. Next. Again, right, this is where the rubber meets the road, is how do we generate new revenue opportunities? Again, being able to have remote monitoring and management around the hygiene of these devices, configuration, firmware updates, troubleshooting, and ensuring optimal performance. Our team was discussing the other day, one of the large scale attacks that was on the news was they used, a remote camera, to hop onto a network, right? The firmware was an upgrade, and that became the threat vector for the bad guys. Again, opportunities to show value within your business processes to your clients, that you're on top of your A game, and that you're always looking out for their best interests. Again, security services, right? Being able to offer innovative solutions to be able to protect those IoT networks and devices. Being able to be proactive in threat hunting, being able to be proactive in those vulnerability assessments and incident response. Again, creating managed services around those offerings, right? Creating that MRR that continues to drive revenue into the future. Again, consulting services, right? Being able to add tremendous value into those discussions with your clients and new clients, being able to develop strategies, being able to show value whenever possible in those discussions, critical, right? Being able, system integrations, services are critical for helping incorporate the IoT solutions into existing systems to improve processes as well. And of course, data privacy and compliance. Being able to understand, be on top of your client's data privacy regulation requirements, and be able to handle those sensitive IoT data, which is continue to be generated exponentially. And then again, the theme here is, and Drayton spoke to it as well, is the potential synergistic partnerships, right? How important it is for the TSPs to be hand in hand with the technology partners that they're working with, right? If it's a device manufacturer, you're been certified, within those product lines that you are the subject matter expert. This allows you to be very innovative in how you present these technologies, how you implement these technologies, and create a business model to support them. Same with software developers, right? Being able to collaborate with software developers enables TSPs to create, high value solutions that will meet their customer needs and enhance that end user experiences. And same with data analytics firms, right? Being able to understand what those high level processes are, how are you going to protect that data, how are you going to secure the data, which presents you in a very high value conversation with your current clients. Again, I'd like to end here with another question for everybody, just to keep top of mind. Looking ahead, how do you see IoT shaping the service delivery landscape in your industry? And what steps are you considering to adapt to these changes? Because they're coming fast at all of us.
Mike, as you mentioned those, it makes me think about the previous slides talking about AR, VR, which is considered IoT devices.
Absolutely.
Okay, next up we have 5G technology. Mike, are you taking that one or am I taking that one?
That's on you, Drayton.
Somehow I get to have fun with 5G. Okay, thank you. So 5G technology, I know that we hear a lot about it, but we don't necessarily think about it as much in the TSP world. And there are some good reasons for that. We're going to talk about those briefly here. As with the other markets, you're going to see now the numbers here. There's going to be a slide. We're going to put these all on the same slide so you can see them side by side. But the numbers here are bigger. You can see that it's projecting by 2034, we're talking about $13.4 trillion. So we're exiting the billions, and actually we're exiting the billions starting in 2029, where it goes to almost 1.3 billion. Trillion, I'm sorry, 1.3 trillion. So we're starting to get into some big numbers here. 5G has such a big impact because it can touch every aspect of what we were talking about earlier. It can touch IoT, it can touch AR, VR, it can touch all these other areas in such a huge way globally. The market size, by no surprise, is like all the other ones. We're only talking about high growth areas in these trends. And these trends help us determine where we can find opportunities for revenue. And since these trends change quite rapidly, it's important to know what these trends are. There are many more trends out there than the 6 that we're going to present today, 5 or 6 we're going to present today. But we think these are the biggest ones that allow TSPs to capitalize on trends and turn them into revenue. So this being one of them, now this one may not be as high as the others, even though it's showing more market value, and there's a very good reason for that. But it does primarily for people, especially that are in the telecom space and the TSP is not the same thing here as we're talking about in the bigger picture, technology service providers versus telecom service providers. But it specifically for people that are the telecom service providers, it gives them the ability to have the VoIP because of the low latency, and the other aspects of 5G that make it very, very beneficial. Having the low latency and also having the low jitter and having the faster speeds also is good for AI. So it has the ability again to impact multiple areas, which when you combine AI with augmented reality and virtual reality, it also gives you that increased capability. Again, we're talking about overlapping all these technologies, and they all are using the same things. So it has that cross-sectional adoption also in all those other technologies that we talked about. So why is 5G good for TSPs? It deploys deployment support. Even though it is a wireless technology, it's still customers still need assistance in doing that. The ability to maintain and optimize the networks. Now, I mentioned earlier that the revenue opportunities may not be as big in the U.S. The reason for that is because if we look at that graph of 5G, it's actually mostly the Asian countries. And the US is actually behind other parts of the world in terms of 5G deployment. There's a historical reason for that. AT&T many years ago fought against the wireless providers in deploying, um, you know, the wireless technology because it would take from landline technology. So I remember I was in the jungles of Sri Lanka about 15 or 20 years ago, and you couldn't see a cell tower. I mean, there's nothing but force everywhere you look. But my cell signal was stronger than it was when I was at home because other countries deployed these technologies because it was more cost effective to put up towers than it was to dig trenches and bury cables and put up connecting lines in the air. So we are playing catch up to the other world, and this is why 5G is ahead. So those numbers you see going into the trillions is mostly not the US. But that being said, we are going to have those opportunities here, and they're big opportunities. So the network design and consulting, as you start to deploy 5G technology, and many of you are starting to notice how a lot of the ISPs are saying, well, you can have a backup with a 5G connection. Um, I don't know about you, but when I'm traveling, I actually use my mobile hotspot, and it is just as good as my internet at home now. So, and in many cases, it can be more reliable. You're going to find that the deployment services providing 5G infrastructure, um, and that's going to be more bigger opportunities, but the support and maintenance of it are going to be more at the smaller level so that you can work with customers as they're starting to deploy these technologies for their remote workforce. As we start getting into more security protocols, depending on the industry you're focusing in on, if, for example, you're focusing on a financial services or healthcare, and if they have homework environments or government and they have homework environments, then they're going to require to have their dedicated infrastructure in those environments for security. And this is where 5G can play a role there too. So as I said, it can enhance connectivity. And again, we talked about this earlier, where you've got the ability to have lower latency and higher throughput, which complements technologies such as augmented reality, virtual reality, and AI. So those are going to be very good. And then, of course, the ability to have secure connections because you can have the ability to only allow specific devices on that specific 5G network and to even set protocols and how they can access it. And then, of course, finally, the ability to integrate with existing IT stacks. And that's what I'm talking about, having that backup connection. Restaurants, we've run into a lot of restaurants that, a restaurant lose their internet, they're dead. They can't make money. So having that secondary connection, and a lot of these restaurants, even though you talk about slim margins, these people are millionaires. I've worked with a lot of them, and they'll tell you in a heartbeat, no, we've got to have uptime because when it's down, if they lose internet for a day, they're losing a ridiculous amount of money. So having that ability to have that backup connection is critical for them to continue to make revenue. So what kind of synergistic partnerships are we talking about? Well, if you aren't partnering with telecom companies, since they're going to be one of the big beneficiaries of 5G, it would help you to partner with them to help this technology get deployed because they're going to need support on the technology side or the infrastructure side and support side of customers. If you know, very many VoIP providers don't necessarily have a local presence. So they partner with TSPs in order to provide that, particularly for that network support. And then that gets us into the network equipment manufacturers. There are a lot of companies out there, and believe it or not, including companies like Netgear and others who work with local partners to deploy technology. Even though you might be able to ship a switch out to have it installed, or something else, most customers don't know that they need to have network segmentation. Now, as you know, setting up network segmentation is not something that the average person knows how to do. So even though they're shipping it out to a restaurant and they can just throw it in and have it work, that's not optimal and that's not PCI compliant. Or if they ship it out to a doctor's office, that's not compliant with HIPAA. So partnering with even some of the larger manufacturers of equipment would bring you an additional business, and they make good partnerships. Application developers, no different. Application developers never touch the network. They never get involved with what's going on with your PC. Do you have these specific technologies in order to move it forward? So it's going to be very important to partner with people in this area to take advantage of the 5G technologies. And with that, I think we're going to turn it over to Chris to take us into the next area. Chris, take it away.
Thank you so much, Drayton. So our next topic of discussion is going to be something very near and dear to my heart, cybersecurity. So as cyber threats continue to rise, the demand for cybersecurity services is greater than ever. TSPs play a vital role in helping organizations protect their digital assets, the entire tech stack. So, as we see here, in terms of just sheer global revenue, it's already a very large market of almost $302 billion. However, just within the next 3 years, that market is expected to expand by nearly 50% to 431 billion. And as we cross over into the 2030s, we start nearing that 1 trillion mark. So it is a very large industry and something that is very closely linked with TSPs. So just going over the market size and growth potential, again, as mentioned before, rapid market growth, nearly 50% increase in just 3 years, increased security investment. So organizations are investing more and more into cybersecurity solutions. A big reason for this is the increased sophistication of threat actors. So as threat actors leverage some of the tools that we're going to be discussing shortly, mainly AI, they're becoming more sophisticated and launching more successful and more costly attacks onto various organizations. And I think we've all been there where an organization doesn't want to invest too heavily into cybersecurity until after they suffer a major incident. And then after that incident, the budget for security tends to go up quite a bit. So in terms of revenue opportunities for TSPs, as these security needs increase, as these organizations are increasing the amount that they're investing into their cybersecurity infrastructure, their security stack, TSPs can very well position themselves to provide these services to these clients, and basically increase or ensure MRR on their end there. So, why does cybersecurity need TSPs? I think a big focal point of our previous sections here and even our previous sessions is the ability set, the critical skills that TSPs have in terms of systems, networks, software. TSPs bring these skill sets and help organizations in securing these various products, because we all know some of these products can be quite complex to set up, and in a lot of cases an organization may not be as concerned with the security aspect as they are with just pure functionality. A TSP can help ensure that these systems are set up properly, they are efficient, they are working as they're supposed to, but they, more importantly, they're also secure, so they don't become an attack vector or a potential risk for the organization that is deploying them. TSPs also provide resources for protection, so various different tools, some linked with this session here, CyberHawk, the visibility platform, as well as a variety of different EDR tools, vulnerability scanning tools, pen testing tools, training tools. TSPs can help provide organizations with tools dedicated just to increasing their security posture. And this helps organizations stay ahead of various threats. So as we're approaching this new technological revolution with AI taking over basically everything, we have to understand that as AI advances, it's not just the good guys leveraging that technology. The bad guys are using it just as well, and their attacks are becoming more sophisticated as a result. So TSPs help organizations stay ahead of these trends among threat actors. So, what revenue opportunities exist for TSPs? First of all, a big one is going to be security assessments. So this is going to be conducting security assessments and showing TSPs what vulnerabilities may be present within their networks, their systems, their web applications, et cetera. So vulnerability scanning, pen testing plays a role in this. Visibility software and deployments play a role in this, where the organization can see where they are weak so that they can make accurate risk assessments on their existing technology stack. TSPs can also help in incident response planning, so helping organizations develop and implement incident response plans. So as we discussed earlier in this session here, DFIR, a very big thing. You don't think you need it until you need it. TSPs can help plan around what the incident response plan is going to be, what the action plan will be in the event that the incident occurs, because as we all know, no matter how advanced your security stack is, there will be some gaps. So when it comes to the probability of incidents, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when, and we need to ensure that organizations are well prepared for when those incidents do arise. And then also we have compliance support. So most industries will have some regulation or law in place when it comes specifically to the tech stack. So what TSPs can do is help ensure that the actual deployment of this technology within these various organizations is done in compliance with these various laws and regulations. Moving on, we also have managed detection and response, MDR services. So TSPs can offer managed security services. These can provide continuous monitoring. So this will include your EDRs, XDRs, SIMs, et cetera, that can identify where attacks might be taking place and help ensure that those attacks are remediated. Because we all know if we remediate something quickly, it's going to cause significantly less damage to an organization and thus reduce cost for the client there. Another one is awareness training services. So this one sometimes flies under the radar, unfortunately, but a fun statistic that was true 5 years ago and remains true, unfortunately, is that when it comes to these high-profile incidents, these ransomware deployments that end up costing companies millions of dollars, most of these, in excess of 80%, start with a phishing email. So something as seemingly boring as a phishing email could end up costing an organization millions of dollars. So awareness training to ensure that employees know about proper security hygiene is very important, and TSPs can help organizations in training their less technical staff on the important aspects of maintaining a proper security posture. Now we also have dark web breach assessments. So TSPs can help organizations find out what information of theirs is circulating within various different identity theft forums on the dark web, et cetera, so that the organizations can better protect themselves, knowing that that information is now public. So things like potentially employee credentials and changing those credentials if the current credentials are leaked, or personally identifiable information, et cetera, so that the organization knows to keep an eye on potential identity theft and things of that nature. We also have automated pen testing and vulnerability management. So this goes hand in hand with the previous security assessment that we discussed. TSPs can offer automated pen testing and vulnerability management as a regular service. So that's important. That can be a steady flow of income, as these can be quarterly tests. These can be monthly tests. And this provides value to an organization because it helps them identify potential weaknesses or gaps within their security posture. And as I mentioned before, it's vital that those gaps become, that the organization becomes aware of those gaps before an attacker does. Because if an organization can find those, fix those before an attacker is able to exploit them, it can potentially save a lot of headaches and even more money. Next, we also have user activity monitoring, UAM. So this can help mitigate insider threats. TSPs can provide a variety of tools that help achieve this UAM. And insider threats are important because, as I mentioned before, with the awareness training and phishing emails contributing to a large amount of ransomware incidents, insider threats can sometimes be of a malicious nature. So by that, an employee might be let go, and before their access is removed, they do some damage to the company, or it could be due to how do I say, lack of knowledge or maybe improper security hygiene. So an insider threat isn't just a malicious action. It can also be due to negligence or incompetence, which can stem from ignorance. What UAM lets us do is monitor what employees are doing on company resources so that that activity can be remediated before it causes an actual problem. And then we also have digital brand monitoring. So TSPs can detect when phishers impersonate a client's digital brand to scam its customers. This happens all the time, unfortunately, where what attackers will do is they'll register domains that are similar to a legitimate brand, put logos in there, and use that to impersonate a specific organization in order to launch attacks, so phishing attacks, for example. So what potential synergistic partners do we have here? Security software vendors. So partnering with security software vendors such as CyberHawk enhances the technical capabilities and service offerings of TSPs within cybersecurity. TSPs can also partner with regulatory bodies, so engaging with regulatory bodies ensures compliance and strengthens the trustworthiness of the cybersecurity services offered by TSPs. And then there's also partnerships with training organizations. So we did touch on employee awareness training. TSPs can effectively facilitate the relationship between a training provider and an organization that is in need of said training. So that concludes the cybersecurity portion. I am going to be handing the next section, probably the most exciting section here, over to Mike. Mike, take it away.
Okay,
No
and
problem.
Mike, before you get started, I wanted to share with everyone that I know we put a calendar invite. This was scheduled for an hour and a half. We are going to try and keep it to an hour and 15. So if you're wondering if we're going overtime, the calendar may say it was, but if you look at the invitation, it was scheduled for an hour and a half. We apologize that the calendar invite was a little bit off, but we will look at finishing in about 15 minutes or less. Okay, Mike, take it away.
Fantastic. Thank you. So AI, artificial intelligence, it's here if we like it or we don't. But what AI is doing for us is transforming many industries by enhancing automation, data analysis, which again opens up tremendous opportunities for TSPs to leverage AI-driven solutions to help deliver next generation of services. Like before, before we move on, I want to throw out a question for people to think about as we move through this. When you think about the potential of AI and automation, what excites you the most? And are there concerns that you have about implementing these technologies into your offerings, which is critical, right? We have to be comfortable that we're providing high value solutions to our clients, meeting their needs. Again, as we see here, tremendous upside with AI. We're just, seeing the tip of the iceberg though, right? As companies, we see these numbers. More importantly, right, as companies become more familiar, as TSPs come out with innovative solutions to take advantage of automation, take advantage of quicker, faster, better data analysis, that's when we'll really see a boom with AI within organizations as business become more comfortable to have that automation within their processes. Again, the market size and growth potential. The growth potential right now is phenomenal growth potential. But I think, again, it's only beginning. Companies still are hesitant to implement AI. In cybersecurity, you see it all the time, right? Hey, you got to have a product that has AI that's, over and analyzing the data, looking at those threats in a different way. In the business growth side, again, it's being comfortable in having that automation in place and integrating those solutions to improve operational efficiencies and helping with that decision-making process. Again, this opens tremendous opportunities for TSPs, right? To be able to have the capabilities and be able to provide those smart technology solutions that can be tailored to their clients. Again, why AI needs TSPs? Again, infrastructure and security is a huge need for AI systems, right? Robust infrastructure, including hardware, software, networks. And this is where TSPs have the expertise, right? We're adding new robust systems that need to have great infrastructure hygiene, good patching, good cybersecurity, good compliance requirements. Again, here, this is all critical to be able to have AI deployed correctly and leveraged per the need of the client. And again, being able for the TSPs to be able to manage those technologies, right? And to have those skilled professionals for efficient operations and maintenance, right? And building a business model around that recurring revenue again, right? This is about how can we generate new streams of revenue and also bring high value new discussions to new clients. navigating those integrations, right? It's up to the TSPs to help organizations overcome those challenges, right? Be able to have those high-level conversations to show the value of these integrations, making processes smoother and more effective. Again, revenue opportunities here. That's what we're here to talk about, right? Implementation and integrations, right? Again, TSPs being able to add additional high value to their offering, right? Assisting these businesses with implementation, integration of these solutions into their existing infrastructure or into new infrastructure, right? That's opportunities for net new sales, opportunities to create an M&R around that product delivery. And AI power solutions, right? And really important to look at solutions that may already have AI integrated into that offering, right? Making it much easier to implement. Being able to be specific solutions, especially around security management, chatbots, and really around process optimization, which is critical, right? Being able to have companies adopt that automation, right, really will help their bottom line. And for TSPs to be able to articulate that value, right, will increase those revenues for TSPs tremendously. Again, the ongoing support services, right? This is critical for TSPs to have that continued MRR, that recurring revenue around support services and maintenance of these new systems. So again, critical to generate that recurring revenue. And Trey, I think you can skip this. It's a double slide. Again, requirements for AI. Again, really important is data organization, right? Having high quality, well-structured data is critical for producing accurate predictions, right? Those algorithms need to have the chicken salad data coming in, right? And this is, again, where TSPs can show value in getting that structured data. So it's healthy data. So the AI that's being implemented, right, is giving the responses, it's giving the predictions it truly needs. Again, the business model around securing that data, right? So critical. The threat vectors, the bad guys continue to, this clobber everybody. And this is where the TSPs can, again, continue training organizations, enhancing not only their skills, but the end user skills. And again, that knowledge transfer around cybersecurity is a tremendous benefit for both TSPs and their clients. Again, cybersecurity, as Chris spoke to, right, is so critical and adds so much value to TSPs and their offering, right? Being able to partner with security vendors, being able to augment your offering with the right products. So then it differentiates you from your competitors and what you're offering, how you're leveraging new technology like AI. Next. And then, of course, identifying and having access management. This is so critical, right? Is being able to understand the requirements per your clients for compliance, which only strengthens the trustworthiness of the cybersecurity services offered by the TSP, right? Again, more opportunities within AI here. identity access management, being able to check those boxes within your offering that's securing data, securing access to data, securing identity, and then be able to, with the stakeholders, being able to collaborate to provide these critical insights to those data sources and have high quality, right? Most important is that high quality conversations and high quality offering to your clients. Again, teamwork makes the dream work in many cases. There's a lot of moving parts. AI can help automate some of that, but again, it's having strong relationships within organizations and strong relationships with your technology partners outside your company. Again, common theme here is right, the partnerships that allow you to drive additional revenue, add value to your offering, and how are you going to do that with AI technology vendors? Collaborating with the partners and vendors, right, adds tremendous value. Those certifications, those close-knit relationships, so you understand where those technologies are going, and then you're able to articulate that to your clients, enhancing your service offering. Same with research institutions, right? Being able to partner to stay ahead of the curve and facilitate access to that new innovation and findings and being able to articulate that. Again, with the data analytics firms, the same, being able to work hand in hand, understand what the trends are, where the next innovation is going to happen within those technology partnerships, and be able to then have informed decisions where you want to take your offering and be able to then have those high value dialogues with the end users and your customers. So critical.
Hey, Mike, thank you for that, for all those insights into artificial intelligence. We've covered all the key areas. I wanted to finally talk about some final insights before we close it out here. And when you kind of take all of these and throw them all together, and these are the graph data, just looking at them side by side with DFIR, AV, AR, VR, IoT, 5G, cybersecurity, AI. Clearly, AI jumps out because it touches every other technology. So there are a lot of dependencies for all these technologies. DFIR is growing because there are more IoT devices, and there's more augmented reality and virtual reality. There's more 5G. There's more AI. So that's growing DFIR. AR/VR is growing because of 5G technology and AI capabilities. And then 5G is getting a boost because these technologies run better on it. So all these are feeding each other to drive each other up. And I think that's an important point to remember. Yeah, remember I said earlier, and you can see it on the graph here, if you look at the light green, that's the 5G. Look how fast it's shooting up over time between, I'm only showing 4 years because this is how fast this technology is changing. But again, a caution, the 5G, that's mostly Asia. So if you were to just put the US in there, it would be a much smaller piece. But just to recognize when you're looking at these trending data points, you need to put everything in perspective. But you will see that all the other industries are continuing to grow. I think that's an important point to make. So what are the commonalities with all these technologies? They all are interconnected. You can see the connections between them, like I mentioned before. Identity access management. In order, you have to know who's accessing this data. You have to understand who, when, why, and how people are accessing the data for these technologies. All of them have to be secured. So those are commonalities which will help drive MRR for TSPs. Now, I know that in the past, we've all had problems with customers wanting to buy cybersecurity. They don't, even though they know it's important, they won't spend the money to invest in it. That changes now. With AI, you cannot deploy AI without having security deployed first. It is a requirement. So it changes the conversation if you start getting involved with bringing in partners that can assist you with deploying AI. And one of the most important slides we saw here is you can't do AI by yourself. There are too many moving parts. So having that foundation in place first, which is what TSPs do, is going to be critical for the success of deploying AI. Again, in every installation, in every consultation we've gotten involved in, we tell customers, you've got to secure the data, you've got to put in cybersecurity measures, you've got to prepare the network, and once all that is done, now we can talk about deploying AI. So the conclusions we come up with is looking at these emerging trends. The technologies is constantly changing and it's changing fast. You have to be able to stay on top of it. We used to talk about 5-year business plans. In our industry, we can't do a 5-year business plan. We can only look 2 to 3 years out now because it's changing that fast. You can't get tied to a specific AI tool because next week there's going to be something out that's better. So it's more better to look at it from a 50,000 foot level than to get tied to a specific technology. Then we're talking about the market dynamics, how they're changing so fast, and understanding what those current trends are so that you can adapt. You have to develop a new strategy of adaptation. Because if you try to stick to a 5-year plan, I promise you, you're not going to be competitive 2 years from now. You have to develop a new strategy, which is different than what we were taught 10, 15 years ago about how to do a business plan. We have to have an adaptive business strategy, which means you have to plan on staying current on trends and staying current on technology. And then having strategic partners is just the key to success. You've heard us hit that over and over again. And I want to make sure these points are good. Now, let me give a couple points about us. We've got Cyberhawk, which has the XDR, the SIEM and SOC, the DFIR, the threat hunting, and the user activity monitoring. Again, there are many people you can partner with, but having someone that's channel focused that knows that they have to turn that business back over to you is very critical. You'll never have a case of all of our customers that can say, Cyberhawk didn't turn the customer back to me. So, in the same thing you have with Taiki Ops, well, also, if you notice of the services and look at the websites, you don't see anything on the website that competes with our partners. That's really important that you're bringing in partners that don't compete with you. As a matter of fact, you can take these services in both these cases and sell them to your customers. And then when you get into one thing I'll say about is DFIR. Um, if you deal with insurance companies, you'll find that they are starting to buy MSPs or to compete with MSPs when it comes to DFIR. There's an interesting statistic inside the insurance industry where they find that majority of the cases are caused by IT. So what they do is they instantly pull out IT when an incident occurs. So it's very important to have a trusted partner you can bring in that can work with the customers to be able to protect your interests and to move your agenda forward and to be able to take care of the customer at the same time. USAI Advisors is a division of TaikeOps, but specifically focuses in on AI consulting, governance, and security. Now, US Tech Advisors and USAI Advisors does not do security. That is what the TSP's job is. But we do get involved in deploying and managing and implementing AI at the customer's locations from A to Z. We don't provide any of the services that they buy. That comes from you. So I want to make sure we finish by talking about, understanding the company. And you notice we talked about a lot of other products. We don't do anything in AV, augmented reality, artificial reality. There are a lot of vendors out there that do. We don't do much with IoT. There are a lot of vendors that do that. You have all kinds of options to continue to exploit those partnerships too. We didn't want to make this just about the products and services that we sell because there are a lot of opportunities out there for TSPs to benefit from. We said that for those that attended the presentations, we'd have some free offers for you, and we do. So these are things you can take and generate revenue from your customers that you want to offer them to. These are coming free to you. What you do with them is your business. So we're going to give you 30 days of free SOC that you can use for customers. Maybe you have a customer that you suspect has something going on in the network. You could charge them for this service. It's up to you as your customer, but you don't get a charge from us. Maybe you have two customers that you like to run a penetration test for because you can help them meet the compliance. They help you win a deal. Say, hey, what if I give you a free penetration test? If you go with us, penetration test is going to cost them, $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 a year. What if you gave it to them for free for signing a contract with you? Or what about an internal and external vulnerability scan? Again, that's something you could offer that costs a lot of money, or to offer them dark web monitoring on their domains at no extra charge for them. So these are all things you can take advantage of for attending these webinars. And how do you take advantage of that? By contacting us. Either send an email to Tyche Ops or to Cyberhawk. I know the Cyberhawk team has a bunch of people that sits there and just monitor those things night and day, but you can send them to either one to get access to some of these tools. I encourage you to take advantage of these things and start helping to generate revenue. Book a meeting with us. The importance of staying current is really, really, really a necessity. This stuff is changing so fast. You need a group of people that you come together with and you talk about technology. We've been doing this for years. And I can tell you the benefit of having like-minded people come together is not there are no sales pitches on here. This is 100% about current technology. What's happened in the last 30 days in cybersecurity and AI and technology that helps us as a team and as a group to stay current on technology. I encourage you to send us an email and to join us on these calls. These are simply calls. There's, again, no pitch here. And if you want access to those tools, send us an email. By the way, to join the monthly tech calls, send it to advisor@tycheops.com. We did go a little bit over, but I hope everyone found this very beneficial. If there are any questions, we will hang on as long as you want, or send an email to either advisor@tycheops.com or sales@cyberhawk.com. Thank you for your time.
So, Drayton, we do actually have a couple questions before we conclude the session today. So, one of the questions that we have is, Drayton, within this context, what is the main difference between a TSP and an MSP?
So I always look at a TSP encompasses MSPs. Technology service providers can be an MSP that provides computer support, Office 365, cloud migration, or they can be a VoIP provider, or they can be a software as a service. They can be a infrastructure as a service. So TSP is encompassing all those different aspects of the technology industry. So as a result, many people have moved towards using the term TSP more so than MSP because they want to be able to expand more of what they offer. When you say MSP to some customers, they have a certain image in their mind of what an MSP is. But when you say a TSP, it opens up the door to other opportunities and other things that you can present yourself as and not get sort of pigeonholed into just offering those services that are traditional for MSPs. But a majority of TSPs are former MSPs. So, or still are MSPs, but they've adopted the name TSP.
Awesome. All right. So we actually have quite a few questions, but we're going to limit it to just two in respect for our time here. So here's a good one. So many IT professionals fear that AI will replace their roles. How can TSPs position AI as an enhancement rather than a replacement for their teams?
That's an excellent question. Matter of fact, I want everyone to join our monthly calls because we talk about this a lot. I personally do not believe that we're close to having AI replace us. There's so many problems with AI that they can't figure out. And even if you look at how AI works, if you understand the underpinnings of how AI functions, it is difficult for it to replace a human. Can it do things faster than us? Yes. Can it process more information than we can? Yes. But can it replace our ability to be creative? AI can only look at what's already occurred. It hasn't reached the point, and we talk about agentic AI, where it is actually being able to act independent of humans, which there are some things that have been recently announced, which we talked about on our monthly call, that are starting to come about, but it's still years away. Uh, even if you look at the current AI tools, you can't just put something in there and hand it to somebody and say it's done. You have to spend time going through what it produced and make corrections. I've yet to have an AI tool give me something that's perfect that I could actually not have to correct and hand to someone. So I do not believe we're at a point where AI is going to be able to replace an MSP. I do believe what it will allow MSPs to do is to be more efficient. There's another statistic. We have so many slides we could have put up, one I did not put up, that shows the real benefit of AI is increased efficiency. So what I believe is going to happen is you're going to find the ability for MSPs to take on more customers without adding to the payroll. I don't think you should look at AI as a way of replacing current employees. I think you should look at AI and teach your customers to look at AI as a way of increasing the efficiency with the current employees so that you can add more revenue without adding more payroll expense. I think that's the real benefit of AI, and that's how we should look at it. And from what we're seeing, that is the best benefit of using AI inside our industries and beyond.
Awesome. I couldn't agree more. So this will be our final question for this session. And this is a good one. Uh, as data protection laws get more strict, how can MSPs ensure that AI-driven solutions don't compromise client compliance?
No, again, I'm going to encourage you to join our monthly calls. We talked about this too. So there, this is the wild, wild west. If you know, Europe just came up with a AI laws, much the way they did with cybersecurity and the privacy protection data laws, GDPR. Uh, um, and we're going to start to see more and more of that. But they can't even create laws yet. They're trying, but how can you create laws for something that doesn't really even have a commonality yet? How can you create laws for something that doesn't have borders? I think that it's going to be up to us and up to consultants to be able to question the vendors that we're recommending and examine how they are securing the data that's going into these environments, or look at setting up environments where the customer's data is protected. And that's why we talked about that data privacy, data protection. Customers are not always aware of using what they're exposing when they're using these tools. And as professionals, as TSPs, it's our job to educate them and to be their trusted advisors on how they can safely use these phenomenal tools to increase efficiency, but without sacrificing privacy. And there are balances between those things to get both. There are strategies you can use today to be able to use the tools without exposing your company's secrets. And those are the type of things we need to talk about in deploying these AI tools in these environments. And what you'll find out when you talk to customers, every single time we talk to a customer, we go through our process of how to deploy AI. One of the first questions we ask is, what what areas of your business are you expecting AI to improve? And their mouths just fall open. Well, we don't know. We just know we want it. So it's a process that customers have to go through. But in that process, to answer the question, we need to always be aware of which vendors are securing the data and how they're using that data is being put into these AI models, because not all vendors are created equal.
Awesome.
Okay,
And just adding to what Drayton said, I would like to encourage everyone to join our monthly tech calls, because again, these are the questions that we focus on quite a bit. So thank you so much, Drayton. Thank you, Mike, and thank you everyone for attending our session today.
thank you, everyone.
Thanks everyone for their time.
Okay, Vanessa, I think you can kill the feed.